Welcome, everybody. We're going to be listening to Bob Nightingale in here. And Bob has been using Joomla since 2007. And
Right.
years and years of IT experience, database experience, which is probably what drew you to Fabrik to begin with, I'm guessing. But he also is a database developer now as a federal contractor. And he's actually the webmaster of the site that he is going to be using to show us what he did in this presentation. So he's the webmaster of that and creator of that website too. So, which is really cool because now you can ask him anything about it. He should know everything about that site that you could want to know. And I want to quickly thank our sponsors. Watchful is our gold sponsor. Our silver sponsors, Buddy, Joomla, OS Training, PHP Prefixer, Rockin, RS Joomla. And then we have our bronze sponsors, Akiba, Fabrik, JModules, Joomla Shack, McGrew Group, Rolando.com, Tasso.gr, and Weebler. So we have lots of great sponsors. And because of these sponsors, we were able to afford our marketing for this. We were able to afford this technology. We were able to afford the swag that we sent out to everybody so we can hop you guys all up with some chocolate today so you can stay awake for all these great sessions. So if you have questions throughout this, feel free to talk in the chat. But if you have a real question, I'd appreciate if you put it in the Q&A section there. So that way at the end, I can go through and help moderate and get Bob through all of your questions that you have. All right, I'm going to step off and let Bob take over.
Okay, I'll see you in a bit. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and shrink my face out of here so you can have a full screen and see what I'm talking about. So if I can figure out how to use the video technology, there's like mouses and keyboards and things. So I'm going to click the PowerPoint only. How's that? Okay, that should be fine. All right, so I got a couple monitors up and okay, well, welcome to JoomlaDay USA. And if you don't know what Joomla is, you're probably in the wrong spot. But I'm also going to talk about Fabrik and a plugin called Sourcerer. If you don't know anything about those, you're probably in the right spot because I'm going to go and touch on each of those and how I use them at my website. Okay. So let me click here. The clicky thing works. Okay. My name is Bob Nightingale. I've been a Joomla user since 2007. And in 2006, I joined a group called the Friends of Silverbrook Cemetery, and we are dedicated to preserving and restoring a historical cemetery in the city of Niles, Michigan. We got together, some of us were genealogists, some people wanted to fix the fence and repair stones, but we had folks who took a lot of pictures and had a very, very thick book, a printout of everyone who was buried in that cemetery. And I said, well, why don't you just put it online? And they said, well, who do we get to do that? I said, well, I could probably figure that out. So that was a start of a very short-term volunteer project, and it kind of grew a bit. Before that, I have come to this with 35 years of IT experience, learned Fortran on punch cards, all the historic stuff here. I currently work as a database developer for a federal contractor. Before that, I worked for many companies, government, retail, and so on. So the stuff I do here with Joomla is a very fulfilling hobby. So it comes out of a source of love here. I do write on Quora and LinkedIn, and if you want to get a hold of me, the best way is probably through the website, thefriendsofsilverbrook.org. Okay, so these are the pieces necessary if you want to do exactly what I did. Joomla, that's your content management system. There are a lot of sessions of how to install what it is and so on. And so go ahead and install your Joomla. Then you're going to also need Fabrik, which is for me, it's a database presentation add-on for Joomla. Robbie, who introduced me, she can do a lot more with it than I can ever imagine, but I needed a way of displaying a very big spreadsheet to my users. And so Fabrik does that. And then the next piece is Sourcerer, is the plugin that allows source code to run inside of Joomla articles. And I'll show you a bit how I do that. And then PHP is the language of choice. PHP is used to run Joomla. It's also what I was able to use to access a MySQL database. And so all four of these are necessary to make work what I'm going to show you today. And of course, the last part, you need some skills. And of course, I work with Oracle, MySQL Server, and I knew how to program in C, and that kind of helped me with the PHP. So I had other skills before I started this project more than, oh gosh, 14 years ago. So here we are today. Okay, so where do you get this stuff? If you need Fabrik is free, and you need to go to fabrikar.com. And if you don't know how to use Fabrik, there are YouTube videos. Look for Robbie Adair at ostraining.com. I watched her videos a couple years ago, and I said, oh, well, if she can do it, I can do it. It doesn't look that hard. So go ahead and look for those. And that's all I'm going to say on that, because this is not a Fabrik tutorial. This is just proof that you can do stuff with Fabrik. Okay, the other thing you're going to need is Sourcerer. This is a plugin, and you can get it from regularlabs.com, or you can get it through your Joomla install extensions through your administrator on Joomla. So you find that, you install it, and it's all automatic, point and click, and you've got it. Okay, so why did I do all this? Okay, with Fabrik, I did not have to continue to have an ugly looking report. Fabrik automatically handles the styles, the management of how to bring columns of the database to the screen. And so it looks like the rest of my pages on my website. It picks up the styles from my template that I was already using. So all the maintenance stuff was taken care of, and that saved me a lot of time of having to duplicate that on a custom app. Okay, since Fabrik is a Joomla extension, is managed within Joomla administration screens. And if we got enough time at the end, I'll go ahead and show you how to get into there. Rapid development, it's point and click. Use what columns you want on the screen. You can activate, deactivate. A lot quicker than trying to find the HTML codes for all that stuff. Early versions of this, I used iframe. I wrote it in PHP, very simple stuff. Had a standalone application. I'll show you that. I still the old application still works, but then you used an iframe link within Joomla to point to it, and then it works. In big air curly quote works. It works, but it's not as pretty as it could be. And there's some functionality in Fabrik where you can hide or modify columns, rearrange them, and not have to go back and bring up your PHP Storm editor. But I was not a fan of the Joomla, or not a fan of the Fabrik Advanced Search. It does both more than I wanted and not quite what I wanted. And I'll show you the differences when I go through the screens. And the top reason why I did it this way is I like it. Sometimes when you're developing a website, you have design choices, and I went down this path, and I like it, so I'm going to keep it. All right. So a little bit about the application itself. Silverbrook Cemetery is a 190-year-old municipal cemetery in Niles, Michigan. Our graves table, which was an Excel spreadsheet, has over 22,000 entries in it, and it links to 7,000 obituaries, and also links to an archive on Flickr, which right now has about 14,000 photos that are linked to this application. So I started the website way back in 2007 just with Microsoft's front page, just to get some of the stuff onto the screen. And then 2008 is when we had the go live of the first Joomla site with the Jamba template. And then like I said, I converted the spreadsheet and I imported it into my SQL, which is the same database for the Joomla website. And then the current template, I upgraded it in 2014 to a Lhasa, which is you can get that from Joomla Shack, but what I'm going to show you would really run with any template. And then when I went to in 2019, I went ahead and had converted this application and had it go live with Fabrik. It took a bit of playing with, but I think I got it the way I want it now. So haven't really made any changes to that. But since then, I've used Fabrik for other things, such as running reports of which photos are not attached to graves, and the whole archive on Fabrik you can get through with Fabrik searches now. So I continue to use Fabrik and extend it for the other parts of the system, but the grave search was the most important thing I had to get running. So there we go. This is the old search, and this link here is still live, and I have it in the back if we can get to it later. But it's not a very sophisticated search. I mean, you have a drop down of what type of search you want to do, and then what your string is. And then I have a toggle here with a button, because every Memorial Day we have to put out flags in the municipal cemetery. So the director of the cemetery needs a report, and he needs the report in the order of location. So we have this, but we also have a calculated location key that the report comes out by section and block in the cemetery. And so he can just go down the line and drop flags where they have to go. So this is really handy that way. And you can see there's some other features, like you got the photo icons. Do you have photos in Flickr? Do you have obituaries that are actually links to other articles within the Joomla? And then there's some navigation. So that's what it looked like. It worked. And then if you can imagine, you just take this and shrink it down into an article in the website. So what I did is I said, I like this top part of it. Our users are used to it. The advanced search that comes with Fabrik was too much, and this is exactly what we need. So at first glance, you can say, well, this is exactly the same information. Why do it? Well, this piece is not an iframe. It's actually a link that comes off your menu navigation. And this part up here was the custom written part. The bottom half here is a Fabrik list. Okay. So how do you get there from here? Well, you have to find a table or a view that you want to display. Fabrik will either you can look at a table or a view that's part of Joomla, or you can create your own, and I created my own. Okay, then you create a list of view in Fabrik where you say, okay, this is the table or view I want to look at, and then you start with that, and then you figure out which columns of the table that you want to work with. Next thing you do is you formulate a get call to display your search. So when you push different buttons in the search, you can filter that search by components you just add to there of name value pairs that can be added onto your URL line. Okay, and you create the PH code to do all that. And then you add the PH code you write to the introduction part of your Fabrik page with Sourcerer. Okay. So I'm going to choose a table or view. This grave search view is actually a join of two tables. Yeah, so the grave search, the key is the grave ID key. And these are a couple little things down here, the phot, obit, and LNAME. They're calculated for some of the stuff I do behind there. You have to, if you're going to have a calculated element within Fabrik, you need to have some place for it to reference to. So rather than extending my table, I just created a view that just generates a column. And so if I need to add another calculated field in Fabrik, I just change this view, and then then that column exists without having to modify the underlying table. Okay, so this table has everything I need to display: the date of birth, date of death, date of interment, whether or not it's a veteran, and so on. So that's the view I chose. Okay, now you create a list in Fabrik. So you get through lists, and then you hit the new button, and it'll prompt you in the creation of to create a new list in Fabrik. And so here you have a connection. The connection is your definition of how do you connect to your database on the back end. And then what table, what database table? So this is a Grave Search view. It's my view. And I have ID as my primary key. Auto increment, no, which makes sense. It's a view. You don't want to auto increment a view. It doesn't really make any sense. And then I have my order as my last name, comma, first name, calculated column, and ascending. And that comes in handy later. It's a column that's not even seen by the users, but it's in the background there. It normalizes the first name and last name columns. And I got a function that calculates that. And then you can set up your filters in Fabrik. Here I put last name greater than A. That's because we've got in our table we use blank last names to do some maintenance stuff. It's not exactly proper database normalization, but all of our last names go A through Z. So so the names have to be greater than A. And then for security, what I do is whenever I make a new Fabrik screen, I make sure I disable everything except what I absolutely need. So I disable empty. I don't want people to even have the possibility of editing or changing or deleting records. So I always do this with access. It's it's an IT thing. Okay, so now we've created our list view in Fabrik. If you remember that I have those little photo icons. So what I do here is I render, I create one of those columns, and I say it's a display plugin. And so what I do here is I have it calculate that that field, and it takes the photo URL page column, which has the URL that goes to our photo page in Flickr, and then it creates the HTML around that and brings in the image of the little camera. So when you customize a column in Fabrik, you can put a little bit of PHP code in here, and that makes it nice. All right, so now we have our list put together of the columns that are going to be shown. What we do next is we formulate our get REST API, and we start with the base of your website. And my website has a domain, but I've had several subdirectories when I've upgraded over the years. I had Site 2, Site 3, whatever. And this version of the Joomla site is Site 4, and so the base here is the index on it. So then you can, reference the option as COM Fabrik. You want to display a list view, not the details page. When you create your list, you'll have a list ID number on that page that we showed that was on the administrative screen. So this one's number 22. Reset filters. This is a flag I set to go ahead and reset the previous filter, and that comes in handy when you create the PHP code. This code is actually a self-referencing web page, so you have to keep track. Is this the first time I hit the page or the second time of the page? Is this the first time where it's reading that that block up there? If so, okay, well then don't do anything. The second time you read through it, you take the elements that you did with the submit button and you fill out the Fabrik page, and then the introduction screen changes. So it keeps track Then you filter by the string of your element. In this case, let's say I'm searching by last name. So I'm looking at this LCF name column, calculated field, and then here I'm searching for people's name whose last name begins with Smith or greater. So then you also give the operator. So this is the operator condition. Now percent 3E is the greater than operator and the equal sign. So I want to look for Smith, and those that are greater than or equal to Smith. And then you have the sort element. So we're going to also sort by that calculated column. Okay, and so here's some of the other things. So is this the first load? So I set a flag for 0 if I'm not reloading the page. And again, this text field, the Smith, that's what would appear in the text box. Okay, and the drop down selected as last name. And then that figures out which of the drop-down options are displayed, and is the vet box checked or not. Okay, and so that happens on the second load of the page. So, all right. So here is the PHP code I used for the text, and I like using the PHP Storm, but you can use your favorite text editor. So I started with that page that was working, that standalone page. So I started out with no title number 7 of the Grave Search. I stripped out all the extra formatting. So we had some stuff in here at the beginning and the end, which I was referencing a style sheet. I don't need any of that with Fabrik, so I just strip out all that other stuff. I stripped out the post functions, okay, because the way my application was working is I was sometimes accessing it with either a post call or a get call. It really depended what other applications, because I have other applications on the back of the website. So in order to work with this code, I strip out anything that's post, and then I added the 2-pass logic because it's a self-referencing page. Okay, when the page is first loaded, so this is 2-pass logic. When the page is first loaded, the reload flag is not defined. The parameters for search type, last name, search type, and the vet are read with the PHP get command. The location, so let's say someone has, they're looking for someone that's in the old graves section. They type old-22, 3. Well, that's not normalized because different sections of the cemetery had different formatting when it came to defining who is buried where, and so we got some parts of the cemetery which is rectangular, other parts are curvy. So in order to sort that out, we had to come up with a normalized way. So location is formatted for the internal search keys. So then the Fabrik URL is built up, and then for the second pass, the URL is called again. So for this, we use the header function in PHP with location, and that URL that we built on the previous page is called here, and then the PHP says die. And so then you get the second load of the page, the screen is filled in, and then all the rest is displayed below that. And so then you get the reload flag set to 1. So it's part of a hidden input parameter in the submit form. Okay. So this is the actual code for the PHP for the search. Since this is a self-referencing PHP code, you got to find out what the script you're using. Here's number 22. I was thinking about parameterizing it, but I said, I'll just, for each page, after I create the list view in Fabrik, I just go ahead and hard code the 22. I mean, there's probably a better way of doing it, but anyway, so I hard code the 22. This is for list number 22. I do the get command to get the veterans flag, the last name string, what is type and all that. So I create the new URL from the current file, and then set the reload flag from the get flag on the line in. If it's nothing, it's blank. So the new URL for the second pass is built up afterwards. So And so here's the rest of it. Here's the option drop down of what type of search you're going to run. Then it populates these hidden values on the HTML hidden pieces, which will be pushed out into the get. And so this is the checkbox for the veterans only, and then starting with, and then that's how I made my text box. So this whole piece of code is pretty simple to implement. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and put it into the Fabrik. So what you do is you get onto the screen for the list display, and you use this tag called source, and you do not put it into the code panel. You use the editor panel. So so you don't want it to drop in as HTML. You just want to type it in as just regular text. Okay, so the first line you always use the source tag, and then at the bottom you put the closing source tag. So all this stuff in here was the code that I just showed you. And so yeah, you use your favorite editor, and then you add your Fabrik list to a menu item. So it's somewhere in your website now. So once you've had your Fabrik, you go ahead and you say, I'm going to create a new menu item. I'm going to call it Grave Search. It's my I'm going to choose this off the list, and this piece here is generated, and it's going to be in my toolbar menu item. It's going to be under the search sub menu, and then I have it ordered. So that's all you do. All right, so going through this as far as what to look out for, little pitfalls. I found there was a bug in some of the versions of Fabrik that I was using. I'm not sure if it's been fixed yet, but I was referencing a view instead of a table. So there's a table within Fabrik. The 3 X's are unique to your Joomla installation. Then you see Fabrik list, and then there's a params column. So you look for your list ID. In my case, it's number 22, and you look for this field, and you add this to the end. It's a very long piece of text, and it has all the parameters that go with your particular Fabrik list. And so you just add this one piece and say, yes, this is a view. One of the things I was working with is I was having inconsistent presentation. So I disabled the Joomla system caching, and I was actually getting better performance after I had the caching disabled. So you may hear another session where they say turn on all your caching for better performance. In my case, I tried it and I got better, a little more reliability. So try turning it off and see what happens. And then pasting code into the introduction panel, always paste as plain text. If you try to paste it otherwise, you're going to get all sorts of gnarly looking code. So if you need to make changes to the code after you've written it, just copy the whole thing out, drop it into a text editor. I use Notepad++, remove any formatting, change the code, and then replace the whole thing. It's a little bit cleaner. Okay, so any questions? So how's that? So Robbie, how do I get people to ask questions, or were there any in the chat?
Hello, I'm back now. We just had a couple of questions. It was more, I think they were questioning me on Fabrik for Joomla 4. So the question is, does anybody have any questions on what Bob just walked us through? And by the way, we also use Sourcerer with Fabrik to do similar things to what Bob walked you through in here, but sometimes it's just to do unique little things. Sourcerer, it just works brilliantly with Fabrik throughout. So we've used it quite a bit, particularly when we're doing dashboards and stuff where we're calculating some some unique things for them. Plus, we've thrown on some Fabrik lists, and maybe we want to do strange ranges, and we want to control them all. So we do use Sourcerer ourselves quite a bit when we're building. I find it very handy. I love Sourcerer, period. Even when I'm not using it with Fabrik, I love Sourcerer. So any other questions? We had a very quiet group here, Bob. I think that they were overwhelmed with the code.
Oh, well,
like,
maybe, well, let me use.
I was gonna say, can we see also if you'll walk us through the front end too, a little more.
Sure, let me hide my presentation here. And
we see your Joomla now.
There's my Joomla. So
I'll hide
here's
myself.
the application. This is on the website. It's live. And if you do the first part, friendsofsilverbrook.org, it will get you here. And so it's part of the website. You go to search, and it's gravesite search. And again, if we want to, I don't know. Oh, it's got Smith saved. I like picking on Mr. Smith. So, this is takes a second. All right. So yeah, it's nice. I mean, it's so like I said before, we every year we have to set out flags, and let's say if I want to do the old section, I just here's the old. I was looking for more specific stuff the other day. So we've got the old graves section, and that so that sorts by that, and we could let's see of anyone who is who died before 1900. Yeah. So that's one of the fun things going from Excel to MySQL is that's yeah. So that's so we had to deal with things that went on the boundary. Yeah. So here we go. A little bit of a delay. Yeah, there's a slight lag with this when I compare doing the same thing with the old with the old page. So if I do the same thing with Mr. Smith here, this shows that it's a little bit quicker, but people like it being pretty. And the other thing is that you've got the navigation with Joomla. You can go ahead by a few pages. You can say, okay, well, I don't want 15. I want to show more rows. Okay, so it goes ahead and does that. So you still have it. And what I did is we start out with what do you do when people just have a year and they don't have a month and day? Well, then what we did is I have a function in the back. So these dates aren't real date types. They're actually strings that get converted. And I wrote all the data entry stuff in PHP, so that's in the background. And so we have the grave search here. So this is the number 22, which is the grave search. If you want to see the elements that go with, oops, timed out. Part of the fun of preparing, I guess. So you can have a group that's related to that. So I think so these are all the elements that go along with that page. And so so it's with the group that's the grave search group. I've got the calculated field for photo and obit. So here's the photo element. It's thinking. Yeah, and here's the code that goes for the photo. So when you click on the photo icon here, what it does is it goes and brings up our page on Flickr. And so this is Katie Moore. And so this is Katie Moore. And this other icon I have with the obit is calculate. Oh, where'd it go? There you go. We got photo here. So let's go ahead and close this one. And so those are calculated fields. So the field for obit, again, it's just a little bit of PHP. So this goes to the obit URL, and the obit URL is actually another it's another article page within Joomla. So it's article 2361. There we go. And so we're in. So as far as how many obituaries we got, and this is part of the scalability of Joomla. This is the latest obituary. So we're up into the 7,000s, you know, and that's kind of nice. Yeah. So that's a bit of everything.
Cool. Bob, quick question. So you guys are just populating the data directly into the database, right? You're not using any Fabrik management forms or anything like that. Y'all are just going directly into your database?
Yeah, what happened was I didn't have Fabrik to begin with, so I wrote all the stuff myself, and something's working. I'm not going to rewrite it. So let me just
totally understand that.
Yeah, so I wrote all the editor myself in PHP.
Okay, so my question is then, with Fabrik, what you're showing back in that view, is it a table, or did you make yourself a view in the database and then tie your Fabrik list to that view? Because it might speed things up if you're not doing it that way.
Yeah, I mean, this table, the Graves table itself, is a table that we update directly. But the Graves search view is a view on top of the table that allowed me to add calculated columns without having to touch my table. I did not want to clobber. I did not want Fabrik to clobber any columns I have on this very valuable table that we've spent 15 years building. So
yeah,
I figured Fabrik, if it's going to clobber anything, it's going to clobber a view that I can throw away.
Gotcha. Okay, I was just curious. I was just curious your list, your Fabrik list, if you were connecting to a MySQL table or a MySQL view. That was my main question.
Yeah, I've taken a look at the explain plans, and I didn't see any significant. I didn't see anything like nested loops. It just does a filter, really, and it's really passed through. So I didn't see any extra penalty by going against a view, but it allows me to go ahead and create extra Fabrik columns without touching my data. I get really paranoid about things that touch my data that I don't have total. So
I totally understand. You're a database guy.
Yeah.
We one of our Jug members here in Houston is also a database guy. He loves Fabrik because of that. But he's a diehard data must be pure. Data must be pure.
Correct. I mean, if you don't have the data right, the rest of it doesn't matter. So I was looking at the idea of possibly having this through a Fabrik detail view instead of a list view, but I just can't pull the trigger on it. This piece is working. I don't want to touch it. I mean, it links to what we call the city DB copy because the city has their own database, and what we do is we can pull records from the city's database and bring it into ours. But we like the way we have it. The city likes the way they do it. So what we do is a couple times throughout the year, we've had people go through and look at the records, and again, we got the same search, but I can just, I wrote this part where it just scrolls through the bottom, and then we just pick out records and it copies in. So
I got you. And now you're not using any of the sorting features at your column heads, like last name and things like that. You're not using the sorting features on those elements on your list view in Fabrik. I didn't think I saw it, but the stream is a bit pixelated, so I couldn't tell if you had on sorting at the top on your column heads.
No, I think I've turned those off here, but I think we have it turned on because I also have a Fabrik view for our photo search. So
Oh,
that's
and
another. So I've got another application for photo search. What I do is um, in 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 Flickr, I have a piece of code which scans our Flickr archive and then brings it in, and then people can go ahead and sort this by name, and so this is the sorting. So this is the Fabrik sorting that I'm using on this page.
cool.
And then if I want to just say, okay, I want to find out that Katie Moore, do we have a picture of her? So so this piece is Fabrik.
That's our basic Fabrik search.
Yeah,
And you can specify which elements are actually being searched from that.
Right, and right now this search is both on title and description. So we can go ahead.
Oh, okay,
and sort
title
on
or
that.
description.
Right,
Cool.
and then again, so then again, I have a little bit of PHP code in the background with the photo page, so I can bring in. This time I felt a little more adventurous, so I actually have a thumbnail size of each of the photos here, which then you click on that and goes to our Flickr page. I was using something called Gallery 2 to store this stuff, but it really ate up all my inodes. You have like a 50,000 inode limit with an ISP, and I blew that out because of all the different resolutions of photos. And Flickr, you can have like a 24, I think, resolutions of a photo if you wanted to. So
wow.
yeah, it's Flickr's cheap for what you get. It's great.
Cool. We actually have, I don't think we've ever done anything where we were connecting to Flickr. We've done a lot of the others, Google Photos, or maybe just S3 storage, things like that. But I don't think I've done one with Flickr. So that's interesting.
Oh yeah,
cool.
Flickr API is great.
So does anyone have any other questions? Because if not, then Bob, unless you've got something else to share, I will tell people to go and network in our little break that we have here.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, I guess I'll click on the networking thing, and I guess I'll see people there.
All right, cool deal. Yes, you guys hop over into the networking, talk to somebody. All right, great. Mary says she's going to watch this again, and thanks, Bob.
Okay.
Yes, it was very good. It's always, to me, it's always helpful to actually see it in practice, right? Like, it's one thing for you could have just told us this is what you can do, but to actually see it there, to see it in practice, it just makes it all come together then as to what you were saying. All right. Thanks a lot, Bob. Appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you.